So this is going to be the video lesson. If you are quarantined or if we are remote only, this is what you would do for Unit 3, Lesson 1. So if you are still in school like normal, you do not have to do this lesson. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is you need to get your poetry journal out and turn to page 3. And we have a poem here from Roald Dahl called Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf. So we're going to be talking about poetry structure, like stanzas and lines, and then rhyming words. We're also going to be looking at making inferences, which means you are kind of guessing or understanding what's happening, even without someone saying it. So I'm going to read this first part of the poem to you. As soon as Wolf began to feel that he would like a decent meal, he went and knocked on Grandma's door. When Grandma opened it, she saw the sharp white teeth, the horrid grin, and Wolfie said, "May I come in?" Poor Grandmama was terrified. "He's going to eat me up," she cried. So this is the first stanza, kind of the first paragraph, but in poetry we call it a stanza. And she was absolutely right. He ate her up in one big bite. But Grandmama, she was small and tough, and Wolfie wailed, "That's not enough. I haven't yet begun to feel that I have had a decent meal." He ran around the kitchen yelping, "I've got to have a second helping," then added with a frightful leer, "I'm therefore going to wait right here till little Miss Red Riding Hood comes home from walking in the wood." So there's not actually a stanza break. This is a very long stanza that goes on to the next page. He quickly put on Grandma's clothes. Of course he hadn't eaten those. He dressed himself in coat and hat. He put on shoes, and after that, he brushed and curled his hair. He sat himself in Grandma's chair. In came the little girl in red. She stopped, she stared, and then she said, "What great big ears you have, Grandma." "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied. "What great big eyes you have, Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with," the wolf replied. He sat there watching her and smiled. He thought, "I'm going to eat this child. Compared with her old Grandmama, she's going to taste like caviar." Then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what a lovely, great big furry coat you have on." "That's wrong," cried the wolf. "Have you forgot to tell me what big teeth I've got?" "Ah, well, no matter what you say, I'm going to eat you anyway." So all those dots represent that this is now we're jumping ahead in time. A few weeks later, in the wood, I came across Miss Riding Hood. But what a change! No cloak of red, no silly hood upon her head. She said, "Hello, and please do note my lovely furry wolfskin coat." So I think little Miss Red Riding Hood did something, but I'm not quite sure. I have to make an inference based on that last little section there. So now you're going to turn to the first page here. When and where did the speaker of the poem see Little Red Riding Hood? So first off, we have to think, who is actually telling this story? And when and where did he see her? So I'm going to flip back to my slides here so I can help you. And we're going to look, when and where did the speaker of the poem? Now, it doesn't actually say in the poem. It just kind of infers where he did see her. So he saw her walking in the woods. So that's what you can pause and write that in your book. The speaker lists two things that had changed about Little Red Riding Hood. What were those changes? So there's two things that changed here. He came across her, but what a change. No cloak of red, no silly hood upon her head. So actually three things, but we're only going to put two. Instead of Little Miss Red Riding Hood, she's now just Miss Riding Hood. So she no longer has her red coat or her hood pulled up. It's like she matured all of a sudden. So the two things that changed, no red coat and no hood. So you can pause and write those really quick. The poem's title refers to Little Red Riding Hood, but in this section of the poem, the speaker calls her something different. What does the speaker call her in this part of the poem? So at the end, she's now Miss Riding. I gotta double check there. Miss Riding Hood. So you can pause that and make sure you have those three answers there on workbook page 6. Okay, now we're going to jump to this side, and we're just going to kind of discuss it, and I want you thinking about it. How is the new name the narrator uses different from her name in the title? So she's no longer little. It's kind of like she changed overnight because of what we think she did to the wolf. If I were to make a text connection, because we watch Frozen so much at my house, it's kind of like when Anna sees Elsa for the first time in the ice castle, and she says, "Oh my gosh, you look so much different," because it's like she evolved or changed as a character. Based on the words in the poem, why do you think the speaker called Miss Riding Hood something different than before? So we think that she did something to the wolf, and it's like it changed her as a person. What is Miss Riding Hood wearing when she meets the speaker? So if we go back to our story, she's now wearing a furry wolfskin coat. So we can kind of make an inference that she took out this wolf. Okay, now we'll go to this next page here. So we talked about stanza and lines. So poetry is usually written in stanzas or groups of lines. Lines may be complete sentences, but they may also consist of phrases or even single words. A stanza is usually separated from other stanzas with extra space called a stanza break. Because your reader includes a section of a whole poem, the dotted line after "I'm going to eat you anyway," so that really long line of dotted lines was because they cut out part of the poem just for our lesson. So we're going to draw a star by stanza number 1. So you're going to go back to the beginning of the poem, page 3, and we're going to find stanza number 1, which would be this one right here. And you can just put a little star the best you can right there. Then we'll flip back to our next section, and it says, count the number of lines in the first stanza. Count the number of stanzas in the entire poem. So if we go back to the first stanza, each line is right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can put an 8 next to your star. And then we're going to count how many stanzas there are. Now there's one here. There's a second one here. And remember, this is not actually a stanza break. So that one was connected to this one. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. Now really this would be your 6th one because this one is including a big section of the story that they cut out just for our lesson here. There are lots of rhyming words here like hair and chair, read and said. The author does a really good job of making a fun flow throughout the poem. It makes it fun to read and fun to listen to when it is rhyming. So rhyming is when the words end with the same sound, which you're really good at. So you're going to come here and I want you to circle the words that rhyme. So you would circle write and bite and then connect them with a line showing that those two words rhyme. Tough and enough, feel and meal, yelping and helping. Now those are called A-B lines. So if I were to label this poem A, B, A, B, A, B, like each line was labeled, then we would say that because the next line is rhyming, that's an A-B poem. So thinking like a poet, as we work our way through this unit, we just have to start thinking more creatively and thinking of ways to kind of word things in different ways using figurative language. So we will continue working on that. Make sure that you are completing the rest of your remote work from the reading remote classroom. So it would be your IXL skills, which I have changed those. It would be your RAS on the days that those are assigned, and your slides, and then your daily writing as well. So if you have any questions, just be sure to